Please help me welcome Marc Stanley to present his 5 to 7 minute speech, Be the Best.
I heard a story a couple weeks ago that lit a fire inside of me and changed my life. Now I know what you're thinking. Mark, a couple weeks? That's just such a short sample size. How can you be so certain that it changed your life? Well, I can't begin to gauge how it's going to impact the next year or the next 5 years of my life, because the impact it's had in this short 2-week amount of time has been unimaginable. But I'm not here tonight to share that story with you. That story you can all find at etinspires.com. My man Eric Thomas tells that story way better than I ever could, so I'll leave that to him. That did get me thinking, however, about what's the most impactful story I have heard in my life up to that point. And the answer became instantly clear. There's a story I heard over 10 years ago that still impacts me every single day, just like the day I heard it. So Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome and honored guest, that's the story I would like to share with you all tonight. I was in Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, California. For those of you unaware, that's Marine Corps boot camp. While I was in boot camp, I had the opportunity to hear many inspirational and motivational stories, many of which are still with me to this day. However, there's one story that clearly rises above the rest. There's one story told to me by my drill instructor, Sergeant Martinez, that is burned into my soul. Before I get into that, there's something I need you to all be aware of. And that is, to be a drill instructor in the Marine Corps, you have to be the top 2% of all Marines in the entire United States Marine Corps. The top 2% in every aspect of life. Not just physical fitness, not just mental toughness, not just code and conduct, everything. To train Marines, you must be the best. So knowing this, going into boot camp, you automatically know that your drill instructor is a badass. You're not going to try to fight him. You're not going to try to out-PT him. You just want to survive and learn from him. Your drill instructor is so perfect in your mind that they're this close to being superhuman. All they need is the cape. So you can imagine when Sergeant Martinez set us all down and he told us that he was going to tell us about the time that he was a corporal and he got into some big trouble. We were all ears. Apparently, Sergeant Martinez and one of his buddies decided to go out drinking one night. They went to a bar, and as is prone to happen when Marines enter a bar, they got into a scuffle, which turned into a bar-clearing brawl. Now, typically, in the Marine Corps, this sort of behavior is smiled upon. They give you a pat on the back, that a boy, and that's why you're a Marine. Unfortunately for Sergeant Martinez, not only was he under the drinking age of 21, but also the guys that he beat up were friends with the local cops. Even more unfortunately for Sergeant Martinez, this sort of behavior had become typical in his platoon. So his commanding officer, the highest of the high that he reports to, decided to make an example out of him. He got 3 months of convoy detail. And what that means is for 3 months, he had to scrub every single Hummer in the battalion. Now, to some of you, this may not sound too bad. Hey, we can wash some cars out in the sun, we can get some girls to come out, we'll make it a party. However, all these Hummers were crammed into these giant buildings where they sit for weeks or even months at a time. And these giant buildings just happen to be the dream home for thousands of pigeons. So not only did it stink, not only did you have to duck as you were working because the angry pigeons didn't like you in their home, but worst of all, everything inside of this building was completely covered in poop. Now, I'm not talking a splat on the windshield like we're all used to. I'm not even talking the barrage you get from a flock of geese, Don. I'm talking crazy, unimaginable, inch-thick, hoarder-style poop across everything. Every Hummer, from headlight to taillight, completely covered. This was the next 3 months of his life. They gave him some hoses, some sponges, some brushes, and rags, and they turned him loose. And I'll never forget, he told me that first day when his CO and his staff sergeant left him there in that building with all those Hummers and all his gear, and he heard that door click behind them as they left, he said he lost it. He said he threw all his gear. He started screaming and hitting stuff. He wanted to cry. He said he wanted to do it all at once. He said, I'm the best of the best at what I do. Why did they choose to make an example out of me? I lead all of my men. Even my superiors look up to me. He felt it was unjust. He felt that he was being picked on. He said that first day was the longest day of his life. He got one Hummer clean, and it took him all day. However, that night at chow, he sat down and he realized that there was something to be learned from this. There was something that he could embrace. So that next morning, he showed up to work, looks at all his Hummers, and he says to himself, if the CEO wants me to scrub bird poop for the next 3 months, then by God, you are about to see the best bird poop scraper this world has ever seen. And he attacked those Hummers with a new ferocity. He attacked them like they were his mission in life. He decided to focus less on the task he was given and focus only on performing that task to the best of his ability. His boss came to check on him about a week later, walked in and was blown away. So he told his boss, who told his boss, who told his boss, who told the CEO, who decided to come check out this kid who's down there kicking butt on these Hummers. So the CEO walks in and was amazed. He was amazed not only at how many Hummers were clean, but he was amazed at how immaculately clean all the Hummers were. He got his punishment shortened by 3 weeks. He got fully reinstated back in charge of all of his men. What I learned from this, what I take away from this, what still sticks with me every single day, is that there is something to be learned from every event in our lives, good or bad, big or small. There's something to be learned and something to be embraced. And no matter how menial the task is, no matter how much you're looking over that horizon at the next opportunity that's coming to you, stay focused on the task at hand. And now I've said this once, I heard that repetition deepens the impression, so I'll say it again. I'm out of time, I'll leave you with this. Focus not on the status of the task that you were given. Focus only on how well you can perform that task, and I promise you, if you do that, you will be the best of the best at whatever you do. Thank you.